Good evening and welcome councillors, staff, members of the public to the Henley Town Council full council meeting this evening. Welcome everybody. First item is apologies for absence. Do you have any apologies, Town Clerk?
We've got apologies from councillors Isaac and Miller.
Okay. Everybody else is there. Item 2, declaration of interest. Does anybody have any interests on any item on the agenda this evening? Any pecuniary interests? Everybody's run out of money. Item 3, public participation. Do we have anybody, Town Clerk, to speak this evening?
No.
Councillor Clark, do you wish to speak as a member of the public?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I'd like to ask Councillor Gavishak enlighten me on all these road closures and diversions that's going on all at the same time in Henley.
So give me the name of the roads.
Well, you got Gillett's Lane, Elizabeth Road. I think YouTuber Zoom are going in York Road and Clarence Road, and various diversions going around the town.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be easy just to give him a telephone call, Councillor Clark? I'll let Councillor Gavachak answer anyway.
Oh, well, the great thing is that there are wonderful roadworks taking place. I mean, the ones down Gillett's Lane, we've been waiting for a year or so. There was also a sort of a semi-road closure down on Thames Path, and as you'll agree with me, that's a wonderful job being done. And the Elizabeth Road is not inconveniencing anybody because there are exits very close to the estate. But that's a big job. I mean, that's to do with refurbishing the pavements and the curb signs and also the roads as well. So actually, I welcome these temporary road closures that will be for a couple of weeks. There's another one coming down on Church Street in my councillor's report. And it's because we're getting the roads repaired. So I see it as a good thing. Thank you.
Would you like to follow up on that, Councillor Clark?
I'm happy, thank you.
Yeah, I think you'll find the one in Gillett's Lane actually is in Harpston as well. So you probably need to get in touch with David Bartholomew on that one. Okay, thank you. Right, item 4 is to agree the minutes of the full council meeting on the 16th of June 2020. Before I do that, if I can just refer you to page 1 of that meeting on minute number 9, public participation, the second paragraph. I did respond to ex-councillor, ex-mayor of Henley, ex-county councillor, ex-district councillor David Nimmo Smith, and the answer I gave him today, I've given £1,000 of my own money to Nomad, and I've given £500 to Henley Cricket Club, who were in need of funding as well. So that was my reply to David Nimmo Smith. I know he's passed it on to Councillor Hamilton, so unfortunately didn't pass it on to everybody else. So that was my reply to that. Yes, Councillor Hamilton.
I'd like to thank you for passing that money on to charities. I'd just like to correct a letter from, I think, from a Richard Fletcher in the paper that about congratulating councillors for their hard work. And I think that this council does a lot of hard work, but perhaps those district councillors and county councillors who have an allowance might also take from your good stand, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, well, let's go on to district council. I've just given £2,000 out to COVID areas that needed money, and my last £500 went out on Sunday to the URC church. Would you, Councillor Gavishak, like to speak how much money you've been giving out? And also Councillor Hinton?
District Councillor grant's gone out to Nomad, County Councillor grant, £2,000 to the Citizens Advice Bureau, and £1,000 to the Henley Cricket Club. And there is one more that I have forgotten, £500 somewhere else, but it's in my report. Okay, thank you. And you're quite right. This is public money. It's grants given to district and county councillors, and it's there for us to do good work and make sure that it gets to the right people.
Okay, Councillor Hinton.
Sorry, I had to unmute. Yeah, I've already updated my previous report. It's not changed since then. In regard to the grants, I would just like to understand where this "we're not doing anything" comes from, because I am busier than actually I've ever been with the COVID group, which uses both of my HTC and SODC knowledge, all of the community groups that I've continued to have the virtual meetings for, taxi panels, which we had mocks for last month, we are starting next week, as well as we had SODC full council last week, not to mention all of the emails, the neighbour disputes, the refuse disputes, all of the town issues that we have to sort out, and all of the answering back on social media that I do more than anyone else that I see. So I actually find it quite offensive to allude to us doing nothing when I feel that, as well as homeschooling 2 children, I have worked harder than I possibly have in the last 10 years in the last 6 months. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question, Councillor Hamilton. That's the best PR we're going to get this evening for the
What are
Henley
the questions,
Residents Group.
Mr.
So sorry, we've taken your question. Sorry, we're now going to approve the minutes of the meeting of the 16th of June 2020. Can someone propose that? Yeah, Councillor Gavishak, seconded by Councillor Reisman. All in favour there? Thank you, that's carried. Thank you. Item 5 is reports of committees, and I call on Councillor Michelle Thomas to move the minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 23rd of June 2020, and they can be found on pages 9 to 14. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you. I hereby present the minutes of the Planning Committee held on Tuesday the 23rd of June. 30, apologies. 31, declarations of interest. 32, minutes and observations. 33, public participation. 34, plans amended. Plans new, 35. 36, objections, call-in applications. 37, decision notices. 38, withdrawn applications. 39, premises licence variation application. 40, premises licence variation application. 41, premises licence application. 42, Road Traffic Regulation Act 1984, Church Street. 43, Road Traffic Regulation Act 1984, Highmore. 44, Road Traffic Regulation Act 1984, St Andrews Road. 45, Road Traffic Regulation Act 1984, West Street. And 46, Progress Report. I do so move.
Okay, thank you. All in favour of those? Yeah, thank you, that's carried. Call on Councillor Michelle Thomas again to move the minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 14th of July, and they can be found on pages 15 to 21.
Thank you. I'd like to present the minutes of the Planning Committee held on Tuesday the 14th of July. 47, apologies. 48, declarations of interest. 49, minutes and observations. 50, public participation. 51, appointment of subcommittees, their terms of reference and membership. 52, election of chair for Neighbourhood Planning Committee. 53, election of vice chair, Neighbourhood Planning Committee. 54, election of chair for Transport Strategy Group. 55, election of vice chair for Transport Strategy Group. 56, plans amended. 57, plans new. 58, withdrawn applications. 59, objections, call-in applications. 60, decision notices. 61, Climate Emergency 2030 Working Group. 62, neighbourhood planning. 63, Slipway Friday Street. 64, progress report. And 65, progress report for applications called in. I hereby move the.
Okay, thank you. All in favour of those? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I'll now go on to the Town and Community Committee meeting held on the 23rd of June. Unfortunately, the chairman and vice chairman aren't here this evening, so I will read the minutes. Item 1, election of chairman. Item 2, election of vice chairman. Item 3, apologies for absence. Item 5, public participation. Item 6, minutes. Item 7, crime and safety. On to page 2. Item 8, High Street recovery. Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, can I pass on my thanks to Helen Barnett? She's done an awful lot of work with the social distancing, and she was congratulated at the last 3FM for the amazing amount of work she has done in terms of keeping Duke Street, Bell Street, Marketplace, Hart Street, all social distancing properly, sanitizer, etc., etc. I think she should be complimented, Mr. Mayor.
You forgot to mention Trish Ray, actually, Councillor Hamilton, because she's probably done about 60% of that work. She's been out every morning and afternoon going round as I call it.
I'm quite happy to thank both.
Can I finish, please? Thank you. I didn't speak when you were speaking. So I think we should have a big thank you to Trish Ray, who's done a really good job going around the shops every day, offering any support that that she could. And obviously, I think the both of them, obviously, we thank Trish and Helen, if that could be noted, Town Clerk. Thank you. Item 9, markets update. Item 10, budget. Item 11, progress report. On to page 3. Item 12, exclusion of the public and the press. Item 13, minutes. 14, Henley bus service tender process. 15, slipway. And with that, I so move. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. We now go on to the Councillor Kelly Hinton to move the minutes of the Recreation and Amenities Committee held on the 30th of June. And they can be found on pages 27 to 30. Councillor Hinton, please.
Okay, moving minutes of the most recent Recreation and Amenities Committee. Item 16, apologies for absence. Item 17, declarations of interest. 18, public participation. 19, minutes. 20, progress. Mr. Mayor, I cannot see everybody on my screen, so if anybody has their hand up, could you interrupt me, please?
Okay, I will do.
21, budget. 22, Mill Meadows toilets. 23, temporary moorings. 24, tree planting around 40 acre field. 25, proposed footpath widening at 40 acre field. 26, electric vehicle charging points at Mill Meadows. 27, exclusion of the public and the press. And 28, Jubilee Park or Weather Sports Pitch charges for use. I so move.
All in favour? Thank you, that's carried. And the final item on the reports of committees is I call on Councillor Reisman to move the minutes of the Finance, Strategy and Management Committee held on the 7th of July. They can be found on pages 31 to 33 of your agenda. Councillor Reisman.
I'd like to move the minutes of the Finance, Strategy and Management meeting held on the 7th of July 2020. Item 20, apologies. Item 21, declarations of interest. Item 22, public participation. Item 23, minutes. Item 25, finance. We seem to have missed 24 out. Item 26, 2021-22 budget. Item 27, working groups. Item 28, columbarium. Item 29, policies. Item 30, Friday Street slipway. Item 31, exclusion of the public and press. Item 32, legal update. Item 33, Henley Hockey Club rent review. Item 34, 353, 357 Reading Road. Item 35, Makins Recreation Ground leases. Item 36, Henley Literary Festival. I so move.
Okay, thank you. All in favour? That's carried, thank you. Item 6, to receive reports of other authorities. I'll just make a note of this, that we've added Councillor Hinton's report into myself and Councillor Gavishak's. That's why there is no report from Councillor Hinton this evening. The District Council reports are on page 35 to 40. My report is first, and if you see on page 35, item 2, it mentions about the clearing up of the litter bins for 7 days a week. What a good job they're doing. What was concerning for me personally, when someone sent me a picture of some rubbish, which happened to be over the other side of the bridge in Wokingham, and Councillor Hamilton put on Facebook, I believe, disgraceful. The mayor has stated that the bins are being emptied daily. This is simply not the case. Well, actually, Councillor Hamilton, it is the case. They are being cleaned in Henley. I can't speak for Wokingham. I'm not a councillor for Wokingham. And it was unfortunate that 2 ladies from Henley and over that side of the bridge had to explain to you that part is not in Henley on Thames. So I think you should apologise to SODC officers first of all, because they do empty the litter bins. And as for myself, I'll leave that to you. But I think your comment, actually, where you've put disgraceful, I think your comment is absolutely disgraceful. And I'll leave it to you to reply, Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. I did add that to that note. I could have added another 6 other bins that I saw on a Sunday. In my view, they are still not being emptied on a Sunday.
We're not talking, Councillor Hamilton, we're not talking about Henley, we're talking about Wokingham side of the bridge. We will come on to Henley if you wish to. At the moment, I'm saying what you put on the Facebook about me personally, and you mentioned the district council as well. And I think it's an absolute disgrace what you've put on Facebook.
Singers Park is not
with Henley.
Singers Park is not being
That has nothing to do with Henley,
Sunday.
Councillor Hamilton, that has nothing to do with Henley, what you wrote on Facebook. And you obviously don't wish to apologise. You don't wish to apologise, I take it.
I will take it up with Wokingham and I'll send you the pictures of Henley.
I'm just saying, you've got disgraceful. The mayor has stated that the bins are being emptied daily. This is simply not the case. It is the case in Henley. I cannot speak for Wokingham.
I know you can't speak for Wokingham, Mr. Mayor. The reality is the bins in Singers Park are not.
We're not talking about, Councillor Hamilton, for the last time, we are not talking about Singers Park. I am talking about something that you wrote on Facebook, which is an absolute disgrace, and you don't wish to apologise. Do I take that? I do. Okay, thank you. We'll move on. You've got my report. Was there any questions for my report, Town Clerk? Councillor Thomas.
Not received.
Councillor Thomas.
Thank you. My question is, can you please state exactly why South Oxfordshire District Council have decided to change the call-in process, as I can see no reasonable logic in why they have done this, taken this action. Is it correct at South Oxfordshire District Council that councillors make decisions, or do unelected officers make decisions? If it is unelected officers, that means there is no planning democracy in SODC in the now or in the future. What options are open to the towns and parishes to have this decision overturned?
Well, the last part of your question, unfortunately, we can't do anything until, well, we probably could do with a motion to council, but the next council meeting is not until October, so there's very little we can do until October. I would say myself, Councillor Gavishak, Councillor Hinton and Councillor Hillier, we fought the corner of democracy at that meeting. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but the Liberals and the Greens didn't. They wished to do away with democracy. Since the meeting, a number of those councillors from the Liberals and Greens have been in contact with me personally to say they regretted the way they voted, but it's obviously too late now. The situation we have, and I'm sure Councillor Gavishak is aware of this, and Councillor Hinton, where normally we can call in a plan application, and basically the officer in charge of that application, if there's a problem or if he foresees a problem, he will then contact us. We will discuss the application. If he can give excellent reasons why refusal wouldn't be accepted, you know, we may very rarely change the town council or our decision. Normally, you can speak to an officer, and they will then go back to an applicant, and another drawing will come in, an amended drawing. So the system that we had before, my view is it worked really, really well. And I can say, Councillor Hillier and I will support me. I think over the last year or so, we probably had 2 Henley applications go to committee, but we probably called more than a dozen in. So, you know, it did work. It wasn't broken. By all accounts, the officers tried to change this about 3 years ago at SODC, but the then ruling group Conservatives wouldn't go with it. The excuse they're giving now is that the planning officers have got too much work, and in the next breath they say the planning officers are working from home and they're turning out more work. So my view was they're turning out more work. Why did they wish to move it to delegate the decision on call-ins to the head of planning? So answer your question, there's nothing we can really do now until we get to the meeting in October, and I'm sure their common sense will prevail, and councillors such as the Greens and the Liberals will support us on changing it back to the system that we had before. I know Councillor Plant's got his hand up. I don't know if Councillor Hillier or Gavishak would wish to speak on this, or Councillor Plant first.
I was just going to say, is this a good time to use the Henley Standard or other such publications around the parishes to apply pressure back on SODC, given, you know, it's an absolute travesty that they've made this decision. I don't think many members of the public will be aware that it has been made, apart from ourselves and you know, and all of us on this call now, and the staff in each parish. So, you know, this is a perfect time to use our breadth of social media and the Henley Standard and the likes of to let the people know and to put pressure back on SODC.
Yeah, a good point. Councillor Hillier, then Councillor Gavishak, and then Councillor Hinton.
Mute. Lorraine, you're on mute.
Sorry, I can't see me on the screen, which is fortunate. Yes, all of the parish councils in my ward had written in actually to SODC to complain about the changes made. And I feel they've been very let down. That I'm talking about Woodcote, Rotherfield and the 10 parishes that are in that ward. And we did try, and they're saying, oh, in October it'll go back. But I very much doubt it. And I think that it should have gone back straight away, because there's an awful lot of planning applications to go through, as we know, between now and October. And I'd like to thank also members of the Labour Party that supported us as well on the evening to speak against this change. It is very undemocratic, and I'm very sorry that we couldn't do more to change it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gavishak, then Councillor Hinton.
Well, if you turn to page 37 of my councillor's report, I give a brief summary there of what has happened. You've got to bear in mind that at this council meeting, there were 2 motions put down. Councillor Arlett, as district councillor, put down a motion that we restore the ward councillor's right as the final arbiter of decisions. and that was rejected again by the Liberals and the Greens, in favour of the final decision. The final decision is going to be done by an unelected person who's the head of planning. Now, I have great respect for the head of planning.
Yeah.
I think Adrian does a very good job, but he should not be put in a position whereby he has the final arbiter of a decision against an elected ward councillor. So that was the first motion that was put down. There was a second motion to restore the rights of parishes. During that debate, I invited the leader of the Greens, Robin Bennett, and Sue Cooper, the leader of the Liberals, to come to Henley and explain her reasons why the parish's voice has been silenced. But it's even worse than that. If you go back a couple of issues of the Henley Standard, and forgive me, Mayor, I'm going to spend another minute on this.
Is this one of your brief ones?
This is an important one because it's democracy. There was a letter in the Henley Standard from the Cabinet Minister for Planning, which is Anne-Marie Simpson. And she actually said, and I am paraphrasing her letter in the Standard, so you can go and read it. And it said, this is not an attempt to restrict or silence contributions. Well, it is. And the second comment from her letter, the voice of our towns and parishes matter, and this administration listens. Well, clearly, this administration has not listened. And the final irony of all of this was that there was a motion put down, and I'll go through this slowly so the councillors can understand it. I'm not saying, sorry, I'll go through it slowly. There was a motion put down to restore the rights of parishes. That motion was amended by the Cabinet Minister, Anne-Marie Simpson. That motion was amended, and we debated the amendment. And because that amendment, they were going to lose on it, there was a procedural motion to actually stop the debate. And that's in my report, and I quote, but in the middle of the debate, a procedural motion was moved to stop the debate. So not only are they taking away the rights of parishes, they're also taking away the rights of district councillors to fully debate an issue and then have a vote on the issue. So I think it was a shocking day for the Liberals and the Greens at SODC.
Okay, thank you.
I'll stop there. Thank you.
Councillor Hinton.
Yeah, just to add, there seemed to be a lot of confusion on the night and a distinct lack of experience, actually. These are all good people. I was quite happy to see the change in administration just over a year ago. I quite like this mix normally. However, you'll notice by the way that the votes went, those that have been parish councillors before, that are parish councillors, that have any experience whatsoever in local councils, knew that this was bad for democracy. Those who didn't have that experience, don't have parishes that they feel they have to answer to, seem to go along with it. And as we've seen, there have been some regrets. I asked a very simple question because there was lots of talk on the night of, we need to cut down the call-ins, we need to cut down the call-ins. And that's what kept being repeated. We need to cut this down. So I'm thinking, well, this must be done so that they can stop the amount of call-ins that they get in. That's what they keep saying. So I asked a very clear question. If there are sound material planning reasons for something to be called in, can the head of planning still refuse it? They were unable to answer my question. They seemed to not understand it and gave me a completely different answer. And when I asked that question the next day on social media, the two people that answered me from the same party, in the leaders of the administration, they both disagreed with each other as well. So I don't think they even know what they voted for, to be honest with you. And it was a complete shambles. And I don't like to say that, but it really was. And it's done a real disservice to every parish council in South Oxfordshire.
I didn't really want to take too many questions, but Councillor Lambert, you've got your hand up.
This is just a very quick one. Have we decided as a council to formally write and complain about the blatant undermining of democracy at SODC? And if we haven't, can I propose that we join Councillor Hillier's parishes and do so, please?
We've
Can I
got an
say
item.
I would support that.
We've got an item on planning next Tuesday. Rather than debate a big issue here now, because lots of hands are going up, I think if we could debate it on Tuesday, maybe someone could come up with a motion before we start the debate. So I'd rather do it now rather than get into a big debate on the issue now. Councillor, okay. I'll take yours, Councillor Hamilton. That's the last one.
Yes, previously we've had the chairman of SODC and the leader of SODC come to Henley and talk to us about what's going on at SODC. And I think this is a perfect opportunity to invite Mrs. Cooper and the CEO of the district to come and explain what she's done. It's obviously a very dour day for the Liberal and Green administration. And let's hope we don't have another one.
By the way, the CEO is not the chairman, by the way.
We've had the CEO previously.
Okay. Right, okay, let's move off of there. Do you want to go on to your report, Councillor Gavishak? Is there anything that you want to speak to there, or can we just accept it the way it is? The District Council one.
The County Council one.
You want to go on to the County? Okay, we go on to the County Council one.
Sorry. One thing I forgot for Councillor Hamilton's question that was earlier, so I'll just be brief. I have given £2,000 to the Citizens Advice. That was for 3 laptops for home workers. As you know, during COVID, Citizens Advice advisors need to work from home, and £1,000 for the cricket club to get them up and running. And I'm really proud of this, £500 for the new Henley basket, which Helen has brilliantly put together. It was based on one at Princess Risborough, and we did it very, very quickly. Okay. It's going to be used during COVID. It's going to be used well during the lockdown. It was used as an online service. It will morph into a promotion of Henley businesses. Moving on to County Council's report, you will see. Thank you, Councillor Clark, for asking about the roads. There are loads of roads happening, and I will actually say that at some point Councillor Hamilton will congratulate me for the Thames Path, but I won't hold my breath. Oh, and the yellow lines. Oh, and the Elizabeth Road repairs. Oh, and Church Street coming up as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Can you tell me when Cromwell Road's going to be done, please?
Okay, sorry, you didn't have your, it wasn't the question you asked, Councillor Clark. Councillor Hamilton, we're not really taking questions here. You had the chance to put a question in before, but you haven't put one in.
I'm not giving a question. I'm making a statement. I would like to thank Oxfordshire County Council for successfully getting the work done on Thames Park.
Thank you very much. That's enough. Thank you. Yeah. Right. The next item.
Generous in defeat. Thank you.
The next item. Actually, just while I'm reading out bits and pieces, there's another comment from you here, Councillor Hamilton. It's got bike ride and coffee in the marketplace. There doesn't seem to be any derisory councillors on patrol. Could you explain what that one means?
I don't know what you're referring to, Mr. Mayor, so there you go.
Well, the thing is with it, you know, we're when I say we, HRG are banned from answering your comments. So maybe you'd like to explain the councillors you're talking about. You can't, honestly. Okay, that's fine. Let's move on to.
Well, maybe you should unblock us.
Item 7, reports. Reports on outside bodies. Item 7. Does anybody wish to speak on any outside body that they sit on? No. Okay. I'd just like to mention 2 that I sit on. Councillor Hinton sits on one as well, the Henley Municipal Charity, and I also sit on the Henley Housing Trust as well. A week last Saturday, we take it in turns going around talking to the tenants, to see how they are, to see how the condition of the houses. And I did the ones down by St Mary's Church, and I was amazing the feedback I got from the tenants there. How they love the properties they were in. They thanked the Henley Municipal Charity for looking after them. And the feedback I felt was absolutely amazing. I thought eventually, there's about 13 houses I went to, and I thought eventually someone's going to say it's absolutely awful. They don't do the maintenance, but everyone to a person said how well they were looked after. And they've got exactly the same with the Henley Housing Trust. They have about 70 units, and they really look after them well. And people live in them for just about all their life. And we're so lucky in this town to have organisations like that. And obviously, I'd give the feedback to the Henley Municipal Charity when we had a meeting last week. But so yeah, anybody else that sits on these outside bodies get feedback like that. You should really pass it on. Right, Councillor Reisman.
I'm the Town Council's representative on the Henley Society, and they had a meeting planned for last night. Unfortunately, due to illness, they had to postpone it. But on the agenda, and I expect it to be passed, was a proposal to support an HGV ban on environmental grounds in the town centre in order to improve the air quality. And I'd like to welcome their support for that. And it's an item that has been growing in credibility and pressure over many years. And I think that the Henley Society adding their voice to that, I think could be very influential. We've all seen the figures during the last 3 or 4 months lockdown, where pollution levels in the town of Henley have dropped remarkably. And as we know, there are 46,000 premature deaths a year, according to DEFRA, caused by air pollution. Those will have been significantly reduced. And of course, we're all very sad about the 50 or 60,000 people who've died from COVID. But of course, we get that every year from air pollution. And so I very much hope that the Henley Society and other organisations are going to support the long battle this town council has fought to get that transport regulation order for an HGV ban on through HGVs in the town centre.
Okay. Councillor Eggleton, are you going to speak on an organisation that you belong to?
No, I was just commenting.
No, this is
no.
not.
Go carry on. No, go on.
Not a debate issue. Just on local organisations we sit on. No, nobody else wants to speak. Okay, move on to item 8, which is the Mayor's civic engagement. And amazing enough, there's been a few, and hopefully they will pick up if COVID goes down. So, but there's the list in front of you on page 47. We can go on to item 9, the council website. You've got a report on pages 49 to 52. Would you like to speak to this one, Town Clerk?
Thank you very much. You have the report before you, and the report is to look to appointing a contractor for the redesign of the Town Council website, which I'm sure everybody will agree is long overdue. And thank you very much to Councillors Miller and Lambert for assisting with those interviews. We had 2 extremely good contractors who were shortlisted, and it was a very close call between them. We felt on balance that Company D was the stronger of the 2 candidates, although I think we would have been happy with either of them. And you have the matrix on page 4 showing showing a kind of comparison between the contractors. It's all there in the report for you, so I'm just happy to take questions if there are any.
Councillor Thomas first.
Thank you. Yes, I was just wondering about the, it's to do with the cost actually. I was just wondering on a very specific point, have any changes of scope been negotiated in the price at all? Because inevitably what you'll find is that you'll very quickly, upon first use, over a period of perhaps a few months, realised that we do need some changes, and how many of those are going to be allowed to happen without paying more money.
So I'm confident that the cost there will cover the whole of the initial redesign. I recently did a similar project with my previous council, and I'm pleased to say that that it came in at the cost which was agreed. The idea is that once it is set up and we are happy with it, and there will be a lot of back and forth to agree the design and specifications with it. Once we are happy with it, then the idea is that it should be simple enough that if we want to add in another page, we have the template and it's easy enough to be able to do so. And if we want to make amendments, we should be able to do the majority of those in-house. And from my experience with the other projects that I've worked on, then this should be the case. So there hopefully shouldn't be any large ongoing costs.
Councillor Weissman.
I noticed that Company D, their hourly support rate is significantly higher than the other 4 bidders. I wonder if the town clerk could be asked, would you be prepared to go back to them and attempt to negotiate that to something that's more in line with the amounts that the companies A, B, C, and E managed to bid?
Yes, certainly. I'd be more than happy to go back and negotiate that cost with them and see what they'll be able to do. That's a very good suggestion.
Councillor Weissman, if you'd like to propose that in the recommendations,
I would, yes. So I'd like to propose.
I would be prepared to second it. As I think the figure is too high for an hourly rate compared with the other 4.
Okay, I'd like to propose the recommendation as in section 4, section 4 of the report on your agenda. So 4.1A, B, and C, and an additional point, which is that the town clerk is asked to negotiate the hourly rate for support to a sum that's nearer to the amount that the other bidders were able to offer.
Well, you propose. I've seconded that. Does anybody else wish to speak? No. Do you wish to sum up, Councillor Weissman?
No.
Okay, then all in favour of that? That's unanimous, I think. Thank you.
Can I congratulate the subcommittee that worked on this, because it obviously took a while to get it, and it'll be a fantastic product when we eventually get there. And of course, thank you, Town Clerk, for shepherding this through as well. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, that went fairly quick, Town Clerk. I might give you some other things to do now. Oh, here's another one coming up. Item 10, the Fairmile Cemetery Chapels, option to tax. It's another one for you, Town Clerk.
Yes, this is an interesting one. So because we're carrying out a large amount of renovation work on the chapels, then we will be incurring a lot of VAT. Because the chapels or any of the cemeteries, because it isn't registered for VAT, then it means we cannot reclaim the VAT that we will have spent on the project. So the recommendation is that we opt to tax, which means that we then can reclaim the VAT, but it does mean we have to charge VAT on the charges that we levy. Speaking with the accountant, she believes that on balance, the amount of VAT that we will be incurring, it is certainly beneficial for the council to opt to tax. The reason it's coming to full council is because it is an important decision, because we cannot then reverse it for I believe it's 20 years. So it is important to get it right. To be very clear, although we will be charging VAT on the charges for the chapels, the likelihood is that we won't, the charges that we publish, the fees that we publish, will be inclusive of VAT, as if you were buying something in a shop. So if you're a mourning family, then you don't have to think, oh, I'm paying this, plus I'm paying that on top. the cost will be all inclusive. So the end user won't notice it from that point of view.
Are either Councillor Rice or Councillor Plant going to propose this?
I was planning to propose the recommendation as on the agenda on page 54.
Okay. And Councillor Plant, would you second that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I just say that it is a simple trade-off between paying 40,000 upfront now as part of the additional cost of the repairs versus adding in an extra, having to charge extra to people who use the service. And we can choose to absorb the cost, or we can pass it on by increasing the price. So we have a choice later on as well if we adopt this option, which I think the town clerk has outlined very clearly.
Councillor Plant, just to speak.
I was actually just going to say something very similar. Unless we're confident that the amount that we're spending is going to outweigh the cost of the VAT over the next few years, or I guess just as Reisman has said, Councillor Reisman has said, if we increase our costs to cover that, then absolutely fine. I was just worried that we might actually end up incurring more costs over VAT over the next few years, but that point's been answered.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Hamilton, you had your hand up.
I think it's right to do it, and I think we should absorb the cost of VAT, so it's not a charge going forward when we use the columbarium, as I've spoken very previously to the town clerk on.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak on that? Councillor Gavashak.
Well, I'd just like to point out that's a direct variance with what the town clerk said. We're not absorbing the cost.
We're passing it on.
This will be passed on.
We're not passing it on.
Councillor Hamilton, can you let Councillor Gavashak speak? He didn't speak when you spoke.
We are passing.
The idea that the town clerk said was that the fee will include the VAT element of it, but they will not. The users of the service will not see it.
Correct.
Town clerk, do you want to come back on that?
Yes, there's a little confusion there. So what I was saying is that the end user wouldn't see the VAT added on to the published charge. Whether or not of course, when we come to assessing what charges we levy, we will of course take into account the VAT that we will have to pass on. So we will be taking that into account and working that into our calculations. However, those charges haven't yet been set, and so when we come to do those, then we will obviously bear that in mind.
Do you want to sum up, Councillor Wiseman?
Just in answer to the town clerk's very clear explanation, there was a business case produced which made certain assumptions about the charges, and we can adjust those if we choose later on. But whatever happens, there will be a fee charge which will include VAT, and that will be transparent to anyone who's using the service.
Okay. Okay, all in favour of that? Okay, that's unanimous as well. Thank you. I'd like to propose item 15, the Friday Street Slipway, comes out of confidential, just for the town clerk to give a verbal update on it. If it gets into a debate on items that I don't wish to go into the public domain, I'll start the debate and it will go back into confidential. So if I could propose it comes out of confidential, this is item 15, the Friday Street Slipway, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. All in favour? So if we could bring that out then, Town Clerk, item 15, would you like just to give us an update of where you think we are?
Thank you very much. So I've spoken with both the planning officer and the legal and finance administrator, who have both been investigating this on behalf of the council. The planning officer has been looking into the planning issues around it, and she's confirmed that no planning permission was, the planning permission was required for the work, but it hadn't been obtained. And she also confirmed with the Environment Agency that both a flood risk activity permit and an accommodations licence were also required from the Environment Agency, and they also had not been obtained. And the enforcement teams from both the District Council and the Environment Agency were investigating this further. On the ownership and public rights issues, the Legal and Finance Administrator has been doing a lot of work putting together a large body of evidence regarding the historical use and ownership. This is still being compiled, so we don't have any anything specific to feedback on that at the moment. However, I would be very hopeful that a final report will be brought back to the council at its next meeting, if not before then at the Finance Strategy and Management Committee meeting.
Councillor Plant and then Councillor Reisman. Councillor Plant first.
Not wishing to beat up on Sorburn and those responsible, but at the moment, through speaking to a couple of people down there on the weekend, most people are under the assumption that it's something that the town council has purposefully done. And again, I thought it's something much like the earlier issue that we can use the Henley Standard, our website and other forms of social media to correct and actually say it isn't. And if you go ahead and proceed with something unlawfully without the appropriate planning, we will crack down on it and we will follow up on it. So I just think it's maybe a good example again to bang the drum of we are doing something about it, and it wasn't us that did it. Whereas at the moment, I think most are under the assumption that we are the ones that have concreted it in.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Thank you. Councillor Reisman.
Yeah, I completely agree with Councillor Plant, and I'm going to formalise, I think, what he says there by making this proposal. Henley Town Council have serious concerns about the recent development to concrete over the Friday Street slipway and the loss of this public amenity. Henley Town Council objected to Sorbonne prior to the work being done, but this had no effect in stopping the development. Henley Town Council are in discussion with SODC expressing concern at the apparent breach of planning policy. Henley Town Council are also in discussion with the Environment Agency expressing concern at the apparent loss of riverside amenity. And Henley Town Council offer to meet with Sorbonne to share views and express these concerns directly and to consider future steps necessary to as a result of the further investigations. So I'd like to move that proposal.
Okay, just a minute. Yeah, can I just? I didn't know that was coming. Can I just check with you, Town Clerk, that that's okay?
That all looks fine to me. What I would suggest is that it would certainly be good to meet with Sorbonne Estates. I would suggest that perhaps we wait until we have the final body of evidence together and recommendations for the council before we enter into any serious discussions with them. That would be my only comment.
So you're okay with the motion put forward, though?
Indeed, yes.
And I'm happy to add on that the qualification that once we've gathered sufficient evidence to understand the position.
Councillor Plant, do you want to second that? Yeah, okay, Councillor Plant second, and then Councillor Hamilton now, you can speak.
Yes, I was going to second the proposal because I'm in favour of what Councillor Reisman has put forward. I just think that the town clerk should meet with Sorbonne as soon as he's ready, but it should be done as soon as possible.
Okay, that's fine, which we try and will do. Councillor Gavishak, I don't want to get into a big debate, Councillor Gavishak.
Well, I agree. I think we should informally meet with Sorbonne Estate to express our displeasure and to say, would you please remove the offending concrete that you've stuck down there? Now, I'm extremely concerned that this might drag on and on and on and on, and we should, as a council, set a time limit. I'm not saying now, but we should set a time limit for this and actually send the diggers in and get it removed.
Let's just stick to the motion. There's no
Mr. Mayor, I was sticking to the motion.
I can't see any JCBs on the screen at the moment. No, we're fine. So we got the motion by Councillor Reisman, seconded by Councillor Plant. Do you want to sum up briefly, Councillor Reisman?
One point I was going to make to the town clerk, which is that you sent me some legal opinions from 1937. Both from the brief to
let's stop there. We've got the motion. That wasn't part of your motion you put forward, so you can't bring that in. That's something new you're bringing in, Councillor Reisman. That was not part of the motion. Thank you. So we got proposal, seconder, all in favour. That's unanimous. Thank you. Right, that's the end of the open meeting. Thank you for any of the public that were at the meeting tonight. Hope it wasn't too exciting for you. But on the other side of the coin, I hope it was. So you may come again to the next one in 6 weeks' time. Item